Have you ever felt like something inside you was missing? Like your life was just the tip of an iceberg, and deep down, there's something much bigger you can't quite see? Ever had that strange sense that you're repeating a story you don't even remember starting? Then maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to remember what your soul went through before you were born. And no, this isn't fantasy. This is real. Very real. And for a long time, speaking about it out loud was forbidden. There's an ancient knowledge, timeless, hidden between the lines of sacred texts. Banned by religions. Mocked by mainstream science. But never forgotten by those who are truly awake. It's a truth that reveals, with uncomfortable precision, what actually happens between lives. And why you're not here by accident. But fair warning, once you know it, you can't unknow it. Because suddenly, everything starts to make sense. The pain. The synchronicities. That hollow feeling you get in the middle of the night. Even déjà vu, it's all part of the same code. A code that weaves together spirituality, quantum physics, and your mission here on Earth. Only a few ever come across it. And fewer still have the courage to accept what they'll uncover. Now tell me, do you? You know that strange emptiness that creeps in during moments of silence? That feeling that everything's fine, but something deep inside feels terribly off? It's not depression. It's not an existential crisis. It's the calling. It comes gently, almost shyly, like a forgotten memory whispered through the wind. You don't belong just to this world. There's no manual. No appointment. But when it hits, you feel it in your chest, like the universe is knocking at a door. You didn't even know you had. Some describe it as a nameless restlessness. Others say life suddenly turns to black and white. And without warning, the questions start flooding in, questions that never used to make sense. What am I doing here? Why do I feel disconnected, even when I'm surrounded by people? This isn't random. It's the first sign your soul is waking up. And yes, quantum physics is a word for it. Just like entangled particles in quantum entanglement. You are intertwined with something greater. Something that's always been there. Something you forgot. I remember the first time I felt it. Just another ordinary night, until suddenly, out of nowhere, came this strange wave of emotion. Almost like longing for a place I'd never known. I stared at the ceiling, heart beating fast. As a question burned in my mind. There's more to this, isn't there? And maybe you're feeling that now, too. What you've been calling an existential crisis might actually be your soul tapping on the glass. It's spirituality nudging you, whispering. Wake up. You asked for this. Long before you were ever born. Have you noticed how some things keep showing up in your life? A number that repeats. A song that plays right when you think of someone. A total stranger saying exactly what you needed to hear. Not coincidences. They're cracks in the veil. Clues. Little signs from the Council of Souls. Beings of light who know you better than you know yourself. Trying to remind you of the contract you made. You're not lost. You're just starting to remember. This remembering, it doesn't hit all at once. It comes like mist dissolving in sunlight. First the discomfort. Then the curiosity. And finally, the search. What used to feel like restlessness becomes something deeper, co-creation. You start to create your reality, even if you don't quite understand how. The law of attraction kicks in faster. Your dreams shift tone, change color. And suddenly, you realize. It's not about finding answers. It's about learning to ask better questions. And those questions lead to something few people ever recall. But everyone goes through. A moment before you were born. A moment so raw, so overwhelming. that most souls can't handle remembering it during their human life. It's called the life review. Before every incarnation, there's a moment so powerful, so humbling, most people couldn't bear to relive it while awake. It's when your soul watches everything. Every choice. Every word. Every ripple. But not from your perspective, from theirs. You feel what others felt because of you. Not imagine it. Feel it, in your chest, your gut, your very being. This isn't empathy from a textbook. This is empathy that burns. No one's judging you. There's no stern-faced God with a hammer. It's just you, sitting with your own truth. It's like a cosmic cinema. And every scene you start in comes back. But now, every tear someone shed because of you, you feel it. And yeah, it's chilling. But that's where redemption begins. Because contrary to what you may have been taught, making mistakes isn't the real problem. Not learning from them is. This is where spirituality and quantum physics meet again. Because every emotion you've ever released echoes back. In another form. In another time. I once met a woman who told me, through tears, about a dream she had. In it, she relived a painful moment from her childhood. But this time, through her mother's eyes. She felt her mother's fear. Her confusion. Her silence. That one dream changed her life. Pain turned into understanding. And that is the power of the life review. It shows you something radical. That, on some deep level, you didn't just create your reality. You helped shape other people's realities, too. This is where quantum entanglement stops being theory. It becomes personal. You start to see, you've never done anything alone. Ever. You know that tightness in your chest. When you think back to something you regret, sometimes, it's more than just guilt. It could be a memory. Echoing from your life review. A fragment that slipped through the veil. In moments like that, the answer isn't punishment. It's the question, what is this pain trying to teach me? Books like The Untethered Soul or Journey of Souls can help light the way through that tunnel. And if you just sit in stillness for 5 minutes a day, holding that question, you'd be amazed at what might rise from within. The review doesn't break you. It prepares you. Because after that, comes something deeper. A conversation beyond time and space. A moment where your past is honored. But your future is drawn. Before you were born, there was a meeting. Not just any meeting, a soul-to-soul gathering. Quiet. Sacred. Imagine a chamber made of light. Not a light you've seen before, but one that vibrates with ancient wisdom. There, you sat in silence, facing the council of souls. They weren't strangers. They felt familiar. Just one glance into their eyes. And you felt a love so deep, so infinite. You knew, this is home. They didn't judge you. They reminded you. In that circle of light, your life was designed. Every challenge, every connection, every coincidence, mapped with cosmic precision. Nothing was random. That difficult person who hurt you for no reason. Chosen. That soul you feel you've known for 1,000 lifetimes? Planned. You're not a victim of fate. You're a co-creator. And yes, this is what it means to consciously create your reality. Because in that chamber, every heartbreak had a reason. Every joy had a seed. In quantum entanglement, it was the invisible thread weaving it all together. I've seen people wake up, just from hearing this truth. One man told me that after losing his father, he had a dream. He was speaking to 3 glowing figures wrapped in soft blue light. They didn't speak words, but he understood everything. He woke up with tears in his eyes and one thought echoing in his chest. I chose this. The grief didn't vanish. But it finally had meaning. And when pain has a purpose, it's no longer punishment. It becomes a portal. Ever wonder why some intuitions hit so hard? That inner voice that makes you change direction. That dream that feels more real than life itself. They're not accidents. They're reminders from the council. Proof that you're never truly alone. It's as if those beings, still connected to you, are sending subtle coordinates through the veil. Memory pulses. Little nudges. And if you start paying attention to the patterns, the symbols, the synchronicities, you'll feel it. The craziest part? Even knowing all of this before you came here, you agreed to forget it all. In that final moment before entering this life, you chose more than a body, more than a family, more than a place on the map. You chose a purpose, a mission, one that pulses like an invisible code inside you, even if your mind can't remember it. And maybe it sounds poetic or even cruel, but you forgot the very thing you needed most to remember. That's the design. Because that is the game of consciousness. To remember through experience. And this is where spirituality and quantum physics dance together. Everything vibrating within you right now is already shaping your reality. The purpose rarely shows up clear. It hides in your pain. Pain is a spiritual GPS. Some people spend years terrified to speak in public, only to discover they were born to inspire thousands. Others grow up without love and become the emotional anchor for an entire generation. I didn't step into my purpose until everything fell apart. And it was there, on the floor, that I found the map. So, where do you even begin to remember your purpose? Start with what breaks your heart. What feels unfair. What you can't ignore when it happens to someone else. Because purpose often hides in our deepest wounds. Look there. Books like The Artist's Way or The Soul's Code won't give you all the answers. But they'll ask the right questions. And that's where the shift begins. If you can, start writing. Not for anyone else. Just to hear your soul speak, uncensored. Here's the wild part. You don't have to be special to live your purpose. In fact, the more you try to fit a mold, the further you drift from it. Purpose doesn't need fame. It needs presence. It doesn't ask for perfection, only truth. When you start aligning with that, everything changes. Your energy, your relationships, even the way time feels. The law of attraction moves faster. Synchronicities become signposts. Co-creation accelerates. But here's the paradox. Even knowing all of this, you still agreed to forget it all. Imagine standing at the edge of a golden abyss. Below you, earth. Colors. Sounds. Smells. Billions of lives unfolding. But to get there, you'd have to forget everything. Who you are. Where you came from. Why you chose to come. That is the veil of forgetting. And the most astonishing part? You weren't pushed. You jumped. With faith. With the kind of trust only a brave soul carries. You believed, deeply, that even stripped of memory, you'd still find your way back, through experience. This wasn't taught in school, was it? That birth itself is a quantum leap. Literally. Quantum physics tells us. Everything in the universe exists in potential, a vast field of possibilities. And by choosing to forget, you dove headfirst into that field. To co-create your reality with the frequency of your own vibration. So no, life doesn't just happen to you. It responds to you. To your thoughts. Your emotions. Your intentions. You're far more powerful than you were ever told. And maybe, that's exactly why no one ever told you. Forgetting isn't punishment. It's scenery. It creates the perfect stage, where every meeting feels like chance. Every challenge feels random. And every synchronicity feels like magic. But nothing is random. You know those weird childhood memories you could never explain? That feeling of "I've lived this before"? Those are cracks in the veil. Glimpses. Little reminders of where you came from. They're like seeds you planted for yourself. Long before the leap. Want to begin peeling the veil? Try this. Each night before bed, close your eyes and repeat silently, "I'm ready to remember who I am." Do it for 21 nights. Simple? Maybe. But your subconscious responds to direct invitations. And soon, your dreams begin to shift. Patterns emerge. Coincidences become messages. Spirituality stops being belief and becomes experience. Because the veil? It's not a prison. It's an invitation. Now ask yourself this. If all of this happens before you're even born, what else are they not telling us? What other ancient teachings were left out of history books? Why were truths that could free entire generations labeled as forbidden? The answer lies in places most people never dare to look. But you're looking now, aren't you? Because here's the bombshell. Nothing in your life has been random. Not your family. Not your traumas. Not your heartbreaks. Every single detail was chosen. By you. Before your first breath. And the craziest part? All of it was hidden. Not because you weren't worthy of the truth. But because if you knew too early, you might not play the game. And let's be real. You can't control a human who remembers their power. You just can't. For centuries, these teachings were silenced. Erased by dogma. Buried under fear. Why? Because if humanity ever remembered that it carries the power to co-create reality, the game would be over. Quantum physics now confirms what ancient mystics whispered in sacred temples. You are the observer shaping the universe. You think that truth was just forgotten? No. It was hidden. Intentionally. Because if everyone remembered, who would still obey without question? Who would keep sleepwalking through life, believing they were powerless? Now that you know, what will you do? Will you keep ignoring the signs? Or will you finally lean in? Listen to that whisper. Follow that synchronicity. Feel that inner "I've lived this before" and act. Because the universe is waiting for you to move first. So move. Change something today. Write. Meditate. Reflect. Speak. Share. But please, don't pretend you didn't hear this. Because once a soul awakens, it never really sleeps again. It just gets distracted. And if this message sparked something inside you, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell. Stay with me on this journey. Because what you've just uncovered is only the beginning.